Hey.
Hi, my name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Good evening again. I am the host of the show. My name is Jay, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. I'd like to introduce my co-host this evening. We've got Josh Ritcher coming in from Santa Monica, California. Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee. Charles Mattocks coming in somewhere from Tampa, Florida. And we have Evis Heath, the man of the land from down under, calls Australia home. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me, brothers.
Great to be
Man,
here.
it's all happening over there, I heard. Why not just break it straight down straight away, Joe?
I tell you, I mean, that's folks. If you're watching right now, that's an inside thing. Well,
it's an inside thing, but here's what I do want to do, Jeff, because I want to welcome our viewers and listeners to the show tonight. Without you guys, it would just be the five of us sitting here laughing, crying, and talking about things that you don't hear in a boardroom or locker room, but you do hear in this show, Real Men, Real Talk Live. I want to just take a moment here to invite you as our viewers, if you should hear something that you like or love, with like or love, gently tap it on your button there so that you could light us up, because the more we feel you, the more we lighten up as well. If you have any questions or comments that come through for you, drop it into the comment section, and we'll do our best to acknowledge you and to put your question up on the board. And so with that, if you are new to the show, if this is your first time watching, welcome. Please drop us in your comments. Let us know where you're coming in from. We'd love to know what city, state, or country you call home today. And with that, welcome to the show, guys. Tonight's episode, when we set this up in a production meeting earlier this week, it was actually last Friday, none of us put the two and two together that tonight was an important night in the US of A. And our topic, unrelated to tonight, actually didn't realize what we realized, is all about choices. And so tonight's topic is, have we made the right choices in our life? And that's right as in capital RIGHT, which of course brought some great pushback from a couple of you guys in the production meeting, because it's like, well, here we go. Like, who's determining that it is right? Who's the judge of what's right or wrong in our own lives, other than the biggest enemy that we have perhaps is within ourselves? And so in this moment, as we're going to jump into this topic tonight, I do just want to take a moment to acknowledge, I know that there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that may have some sense of excitement in this moment. There are also people that have heightened anxiety. And so I just want to take a moment to honor whatever you're feeling in this moment as you have taken the time to join us and maybe turn off the tube and be part of our show tonight. So we want to just take this moment to thank you for that. Without further ado, I'm going to invite one of my co-hosts to kick the show off. And being that it is all about choices, Charles Mattocks, welcome back. I think the last 2 weeks you were in the Dominican Republic, and we did miss you in our studio and in the show with us. So welcome home.
Oh yeah,
thank you, brother. Back on the land of the United States. How does it feel to be back home?
It feels good. You know, I mean, it was a welcome journey, and I was able to get some work done, but also discover some things, opening up some doors, and actually close some doors. So yeah. it was an interesting situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we'll have an opportunity to kind of pull some of that out because I'd love to hear what some of the things you learned about. But, you know, to be fair to the other guys here on the show tonight, this is your topic. I believe this is the topic that you inspired us to dive into. Again, the topic is, have we made the right choices in our life? So, Charles, I'm going to put you in a hot seat and say, what is this about? How has this impacted your life, and why would you why did you want us to have this topic tonight?
I think it was one of those things where, like I said, this last trip that I took, I kind of had to, face some realities and look at some things head on and kind of look in the mirror and look at people that were around me. And it was ironic because as I was headed out, and literally about to get on the plane. Well, I was about to get on the plane and got my COVID test, and it was negative. And but I needed a different COVID test, so it was a long story. I ended up having to totally get switched around. But a guy so I had to end up staying in Miami another day with another guy who was going to Costa Rica. Good connection. And then I got a call from somebody who was like my dad. It's like, his name is Reverend Douglas Good, a Jamaican guy, travels with me and stuff like that. And he had shared some stuff with me, and he was like, dude, what are you doing? And regarding the situation and part of the travel. And it was kind of eye-opening. And then, like I said, as the whole journey that I had to go through, it was almost like, number one, I'm putting myself at risk with COVID. Not that flying on a plane could be safer, but then, just everything that was surrounding, why I was there, how I was there, the purpose, the whole thing. And it kind of really and then after a couple of days, it kind of made me kind of have to look at myself and say, dude, what are you doing? What choices are you making in your life? What have I allowed myself to step into? Why have I, in many ways, lied to myself or created a perception of something that you didn't even really, dig down deep into, because sometimes you can, be around people and not even realize, hey, I don't even really know these people and or this person, but you've invested the time and you got there, and you're like, So it was about choices, whether it's that or work or whatever it is. It's so that's kind of what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big weekend for you then, brother. Wow.
Yeah, it was an eye-opening situation, and but I'm glad though. I'm glad. So,
And what was your takeaway? Like, what was the realization you came to, or if you mind sharing?
I pivoted, and I'm pivoting, and I don't think I owe any explanation for I've invested enough time and energy, and the people are great people. Don't get me wrong, but just I'm done being Mother Teresa. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was last week's topic, brother. And
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Well, Mary, let me answer Mary's question. Mary, wow, probably not, but I had to, because if I didn't, it would have led to other things that could have become bigger that I would have had to address. If I didn't go and address those things and see those things firsthand, so I wish I didn't, but I'm glad I did.
Beautiful.
That's the sad reality of it.
Beautiful.
So what did you guys think? I mean, I know Jeff had some ideas, and Josh, and Jay, what did you guys, think of what we were talking about?
Let's dive in, brothers. Let's dive in. Wow, what an opener. Look,
I
brothers,
know,
how I see it, brothers, look, we're all faced with these beautiful things we've called choices within our lives. Difficult choices, like my brother's talking about here. We've got heartwarming choices, impossible choices, kinds of choices, I guess, that really question humanity, particularly in the state that we're currently in at the moment worldwide. There's also choices we look forward to, but I know from my personal experience, just among some of those choices, when I started to actually look at the choices that I was making from an angle of taking that ability to be able to respond or be responsible for those choices and take ownership for the consequences that they were causing, not only for myself, but for those around me too.
Mm-hmm.
See, when we have a look at this word, this word of choice, what I want to dive in tonight, and I just did a quick pre-hype video about it on my way back from drive about this morning, was more so about this frame of mind of our freedom of choice. On my way back from drive. As opposed to, just this choice that we have in life, or that freedom of choice against decision making, and what is different about each of those. Because I think when we go into these choices, what we've got to realize, and what I just quickly opened up with, is that we're always making choices. Man, I had to make a choice about what jocks I was going to wear this morning. I had to make a choice about what, food my cat was going to have. We're always making choices.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've grown up in and what we're seeing today, and I don't even have to mention it, I opened up the show quite bluntly about it, is that we've grown up in a system that says you either go this way or that way.
Yeah.
And brothers and sisters, this is witnessing the fall of the old system. You've got to lap this moment up. Embrace this. This is the very, very last part of what we've been living in. Because, straight down the center, not here or here, straight down the center is a room full of choices now, and a room full of paths. Now, that can seem very daunting and fearful for a lot of people. And I know me too. That used to be fearful for me. But when I got out of that logical mind, that space, that mind space, and started dripping down into this beautiful thing we call our heart space, I call it my heart drive now. Then I started to go into nurturing things like that intuition, the ultimate power of being able to make decisions within life that, like I said, not only serve you, but those around you, and as a collective also.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that, Ev. Walter just jumped on here and said, as you synchronicities right here on his show tonight, his post popped on right as you were in it. He says, life is made up of choice moments. It is for me most important to own my choices and make them from my heart space, not the cage of the mind, as you pointed to your own mind.
Good point.
Beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not easy. What do you think of that, Jeff?
A couple of things that Evis said that they got me thinking about things and going into my heart spaces. When like choices are not either or, like Ev just said, going to right, to the left, or anything like that. And we're making choices every nanosecond in every moment. And to always know, because well, here I go. The wounded child has no clue that it has choices. So if we're operating from that place, that wound or that programming, and which is in our brains and our minds, we can move into our heart, into the adult space, to know that we can make one choice, and then after that choice comes another choice, and another choice, and another choice. Choices are malleable. There's nothing finite really in any choice that we make, because we made that choice. We have the freedom to change our minds. But I just wanted to pick up on what Ev said, because when we move into that heart space, into an adult space, and we make a choice from that place, we already know that we could change our mind, and there's another choice and another choice and another choice, and there's no right or wrong choice. It is just a choice that we made in that moment. And then when we get to that moment and it's a pivotal choice or an important choice, we can look at that and say, did that choice serve my highest good in that moment? Did it serve the highest good of another in that moment? Oh, wow. No, it didn't. But you know what? Now I know that I've learned it. Now, right now, I can make another choice.
Beautiful. I want to post this up there. What's that? Go ahead, Charles.
No, I was going to jump in and say that, through these choices, and I remember even going back in some shows and having conversations, and I'm at a space right now where I'm really happy because of that choice. And I'm almost at a free space where, like, I might have been knocking somebody else on the last show, and I think I was, about, the whole, let's say, single thing and being okay with being alone and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm at a space now where it's like, dude, I just want to just enjoy life. You know what I'm saying? I just want to enjoy life, and travel and do me and work and have fun. And I don't think that something defines me and needs to define me. I don't need to have my happiness wrapped up in something that I thought I did. And that when that creative, energetic, artistic, beautiful thing walks in front of my eyes, it'll just be a compliment. And so I've learned a lot from some bad choices, per se, and now making some better choices, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah.
And our current reality is the culmination of our past choices.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to not like what that is. And it's okay to have the courage, like you did, Charles, to examine that and stop and say, you know what? I don't like the current space. And to say, what choices in my past brought me here, and what new ones can I make? Because, like, Jeff and Ev were saying, we are free. We can make new ones. You can change and be a different person tomorrow. There are no rules. I hate when I hear people say change is hard, because change is not hard. If you truly decide and you make new choices as that new person would, that ideal, that higher self, like Ev was talking about, if you make choices from that higher self, your trajectory will change. I often think of it as like, if you move only 1 degree, right? 1 degree isn't much here when it starts, but when it gets out for miles, that 1 degree can be, thousands of feet or kilometers apart. And so that 1 degree, that one choice, or those culmination of new choices from your highest self, that's what makes the massive change. It's like, I think I was so caught up in change was hard, or change had to be some massive thing. And it's not. It's those tiny choices and those tiny reframes in your mind where you stop yourself you recognize the old and you say, I'm choosing new.
Yep.
Love that, Josh. Love that, man.
Love that. Yeah.
Something I want to do.
That little sliver, that little degree can move into the quantum field in infinitesimal, just so an infinite thing by making one, as my father would say, small choice, taking one half step forward can propel you into something, into the quantum field of probability and possibility. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to throw this out here, guys, real quick. Taz shared this comment, and I just been sitting on it for a few minutes here. I want to take a moment here just to share my perspective of what I'm hearing and feeling. He says we own the consequences of our choices, and that's a very powerful statement. It works in our favor, but it also is what I believe handicaps a lot of people. Because what happens is we are aware of a lot of times we are aware of our consequences, and then we go to the what ifs, and then we go to fear. And so from my perspective, I understand that, and I say, yes, it is about us taking accountability for our choices. However, I don't encourage us as men and women to look at the choices that we are contemplating as right or wrong, or go into guilt or shame, regret, resentment, if we make a choice and it doesn't work out. How I love to embrace the choices that I make in my life today is by understanding that regardless if I am at peace with the outcome, what I am willing to do is embrace one question and one question only. What did I learn?
Mm-hmm.
What did I just learn about myself that I didn't know before? So that I don't go to that whole mind game of beating myself up, feeling less than, feeling angry, feeling resentment, the guilt and shame and everything that was my old patterns of living, which is very common for us as beings, human beings, that is. So I love that. I love that comment, Taz, and I thank you for sharing that. At the same time, I invite all of us that through the process of whatever choice we make in that moment, that we see it and we honor it. We honor ourselves for having the courage to make a choice, even if it doesn't turn out exactly as we want it. Because sometimes what comes from it is even more important than what we thought was behind the ultimate intention of setting the
One of the thoughts that I'm thinking right now is how do we avoid certain bad choices before we have to step in there and per se learn something. And I say that as a friend of mine's husband just died of diabetes complications. I don't think this guy was more than 51, 52, 53 years old. And those choices of not taking his medicine, those choices of not eating right. You have people who are smoking cigarettes for 20, 30 years and know that this choice could lead to cancer. That unprotected sex could lead to disease or unwanted children, knowing that this friendship is toxic, or seeing something that is playing out in front of you where you have to make a choice of stopping something before it gets too far and seeing the signs and allowing yourself to keep stepping forward into that situation. So how would we offer up those suggestions as far as making sure we don't step into some of those things, because some of these things can be avoided.
Yeah, 100%, brother. And great question. Look, for me, my brother, we talk about it time and time again. This is about truly knowing thyself. Anytime we have a decision to be making of some sort of magnitude that you're talking about, man, we first have to understand who the hell we are. We have to understand our values. We have to understand our morals. We have to understand our interests, our strengths, our weaknesses, our goals, intentions, desires, all of the above. Then we start creating some sort of thing that we can weigh up, some variables of these pros and cons of possibly some of these choices that we're going to be making within our lives. You know, for me, like, I'm not going to be silly, but, you know, my strengths to be able to go out and lift some sort of heavy, out of joke sort of weight, I'm not going to go over and try and lift, you know, 300 pounds if I can only lift 200. So the thing is, you've got to know thyself before you start making some of these choices. And for me, coming back to the self, and really, like I said, knowing those values and morals is always a good starting point, particularly when you're talking about decisions made at that sort of magnitude, man. Because if you've really gotten down to that point where the health has really taken off like that, you've got to think, what was the last 2 decades happening? What was happening back then? I hope that makes sense.
Oh, totally.
You know what popped into my mind when you were talking, Charles, is in that situation is how much do we love ourselves? Are we making you know, how much do I love myself if I have these crucial life choices to make? How much do I honor and value and love myself to, like I said earlier, make choices that serve our highest good and serve the highest good of others in a collective? That's what popped into my mind right away is, and then as adults, once again, making informed choices. Making informed choices, if they're life choices, making informed choices by responding and not reacting to what's going on. Because, you know, there's no good or bad choices. Choices are just choices. And as I said earlier, you make one choice, 2 seconds later, you just say, oh, you know, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to make another choice right now.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I want to take a moment here, Jeff. I'm not going to post this up because it's going to shrink Charles and that down.
He's on keto, man. He's on keto.
Yeah, they get over it, like Josh just.
In the old days, we grab a yellow pages and sit on it to raise ourselves up, but we don't need to do that today. But I do want to acknowledge, I want to celebrate in this moment something that Jeannie Cash said. She says, Jay Rothman, when we get the opportunity to make a choice to make things better in our life, if we do not jump in and try, we will never experience the new opportunities the universe can bless us with. And she says, I am jumping in.
Amen.
Right. Josh moving to Bali.
Yeah, man.
Jumping, you know, I'm going to make a choice. How does it? One thing we could do is in answer to Charles is like not reacting, responding, and say, if I make that choice, how does it make me feel? I have this choice in front of me to move to Bali. How does that make me feel if I make that choice and say yes?
There we go.
A tool you nailed it, Jeff. A tool that I use is I kind of like try it on.
Yeah,
kind of like I wear it for a second. I'm like, how does this feel?
Yeah.
And if something's uncomfortable or too tight or feels restrictive or whatever, it's okay to take it off and put it down. Like you can, I see it as like trying on clothes. And man, when I tried on Bali, like I felt amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I definitely got to do this then.
And that's what Evis said earlier about making the choice from your heart.
Yeah.
And that's the adult choice. How does it make me feel that I'm going to make this choice, which becomes an informed choice? Wow, it raises my resonance and vibration. That feels wonderful. What might happen is then the conditioning of the program will come into your mind and go, I don't know. Will I be safe if I make that choice? Am I going to be safe and secure if I make that choice? Which is why so many people stay in their comfort zones and live life on a small.
Yeah,
Because-
it really is that fear of the unknown, isn't it? Sorry, Jay, you go, Jay.
Yeah, I don't think Jeff is saying that from a judgment. That's not a judgment statement. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I want to just jump on real quick here. When you mentioned do your homework, do your research, I want to share a perspective that I've experienced in my own life, and perhaps maybe someone can embrace this as a tool for your own life. And that I did a lot of research in my life, and I thought a lot, and I was paid to think to bring solutions to an organization. And what I didn't know then, and what I've learned today, is that I really want to do research in a different way. I want to do research from within. I want to tap into, pay attention to what I'm feeling until I can really hear the intuition and wisdom telling me what's right in that moment, what my next move should be, something I'm contemplating. I say move, I'm talking in general, not necessarily a physical move. That type of research for me feels so much lighter than the old way how I used to show up, and I got paid to do that. I love tapping in. And the only way, this is another tool for you guys, the only way that I have found to do that for me is out in nature. That's where I get my downloads. That's where I connect and the answers come to me, is when I'm in my head and I'm in my four walls of my home. I'm doing a whole lot more thinking and a lot less listening for the answers. And here's the truth. My truth today is my answers are best when they don't come from outside of me. They're best when they don't come from cable news network. They're best when they don't come from social media. They're best when I tap into me. And boy, what a difference it's made over the past 5 years of my own healing journey. Mm-hmm. Ev, what do you make of that? You're nodding yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm 100%. You know me, brother. I mean, you were out in the woods or bush, we call it here in the land down under. And if there's ever a choice or decision I've got to make, man, that's the first step I make. It's outdoors in nature. We keep talking about these fake lights and all this artificial stuff. Can you actually be surprised why, there is so much chaos on this planet at the moment? It's because we're walking straight into this box, into this trap, where we're going to feel like we have to always make this decision of going right or left or right. And not really, like Jay's saying, following this more intuitive nature and technology. Man, this intuition is a beautiful technology within each and all of us. And if you don't know how to use that just yet, because like I said at the start of this particular show, in this system that we've grown up, we've been taught to be logical.
Yeah.
We've been taught to be rational. And so how do we navigate and start coming from a place of the heart and learning some of more of these intuitive skills, particularly when I keep talking about that the body, by the time you get to our age, man, it already knows you better than you know it. And if you've been living in a body full of pain, hurt, shame, blame, game, and guilt, how are you going to feel your way through your choices in life? Shit gets deep, man.
What just popped into my head that I conveniently pushed in the back. A bunch of months ago, I made an important, whatever. It was a choice in my life that at that time was an important choice to make. And all along in my heart, I knew I shouldn't have made, I knew that if I made this certain choice, it just was not, I didn't pay attention to my intuition saying no. It was screaming, and I knew it. I knew it so deep inside that that I should have said no, but I said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I said yes because it actually pleased somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And it blew up. And it turned out to be what it turned out to be. But my biggest lesson from that is exactly, Ev, what you just said. What I realized is that I didn't pay attention to what was going on in me, in my heart, that was saying, no, make a different choice. No. And it was so palpable, but I didn't listen to that voice in my heart, and I negated me. I negated what was going on inside of me, and made a different choice that was the antithesis of what I really knew and hear, and it turned out to be quite dramatic. Let's put it that way.
Beautiful, brother.
To it is to, and I've learned from that. I've really learned that before an important choice that I have to make, what I do now is I step back and go within, and then be with that. How does it feel? And really stay with and my intuition, and not trust the other person, not trust what another person has to say about it. Like Jay said, I'm not going to Facebook. I'm not doing this. I'm going to go out in nature, and the answer is going to come to me.
And a lot of times, I think the problem is that this was my truth, is that I didn't know to pause and check in.
Yeah.
My life was just so fast paced, and I was living the grind and living that, I wasn't giving myself that pause, or even knew that I could.
Yeah.
And just to stop and say, wait a minute. Yes. Let me try this on.
Yeah.
That's funny, Josh. We just got like all the ladies just like, shut up, pause. Yes, pause.
Women are better, are more in tune with pausing and going within than men are.
So how do we break that cycle, Jeff? How do we?
With what Josh just said.
Okay.
and Jay, balance. It's balance.
Yeah, Jay. The tool, Jay. You going out. I'm gonna go out into nature, and then that's my pause.
And Charles having the courage to stop and say, what's really going on,
Yeah,
man.
And Ev coming from the heart. I mean, these are all amazing tools to say, where's this headed?
Josh, Gilly asked the question. I'm going to put it up here tonight. Invite one of you to jump in, maybe give your own perspective or interpretation. She said, can choices be right at the time, right on time, but then in future developments, we conclude they weren't the best choice? So she says, which is it?
It's the one now. It's the one now.
It's where we are in our process, because if we make a choice and then whatever develops, it goes back to, we have a lot of choices that we can make constantly. So we make a choice. It feels, based upon where we are in our life right now, in our personal process, in our development, in our heart, we make a choice. And then we continue that development and keep on growing and learning more. And all of a sudden, maybe down the road, you realize, oh, wow, the choice felt right to me at that time. Exactly what Evis just said. It's a choice that we make right now. And then we look and see, and somehow I know Jillian Bowie knows this answer.
So here's my
testing us.
Here's my question. I have a question for Jillian. Sorry, Jeff, to cut you off real quick. But what did you learn in the end? What was the nugget?
Yeah.
Is my question. Because I went 10 years down the road of my startup, and I was getting way exposed financially. And I kept checking in, and it felt right. It felt right to keep going. And I had a massive crash, and I was angry and bitter because I was like, how, universe, God, whatever, how did you let me crash like this? And it wasn't until, 4 years after that I realized it brought me to my true purpose and what I needed to be doing. So it can feel bad, but you got to look for the nugget. The nugget's in there, and the reason why it happened is in there. So you can sift through the ashes, and there's gold.
Yeah. And my question to Jillian was, were you just testing us? Come on, Jillian. I want to hear.
One of the challenges I think that we have in society is we get the downloads in our home, our belief systems. We also we get programming in faith and church and religion, family culture, I should say. And there's another piece to it, which is the feeling of obligation sometimes. Jeff, you alluded to a decision that you made in a relationship that wasn't about which movie we're going to go see or what restaurant we're going to go out to eat. It was a major life choice that you faced, and you acknowledged in the show tonight that it was one that you knew prior you were not at peace with. Yet you didn't follow what you knew then was your inner voice telling you, no, thank you. You followed instead that obligation. What do you think we could do as men and as women to help break our relationship to our belief systems, parts of our culture, the upbringing that may not be serving us in our lifetime because it's different than the way, let's say, our parents were raised, and what they taught us was their truth became ours. How do we break the chain to, with respect and with love, being able to honor our ancestors, starting with our moms and dads or our caretaker, but at the same time, break the chain so that we can be free? Ev, you want to jump on that?
Look, to me, Jay, when you're talking about that parent side of things, we touched on it earlier when we just talked about, to me, authority limits choices. Say that again. Authority limits choices. Sorry, Jay?
Yeah, you said it. I said repeat it, and you said it.
But in all those choices are consequences, like we've mentioned. Yeah, sorry, mate. Keep going.
No, I want to hear. Keep going, Evan. I want to hear. I want to hear. It's good.
No. It's so think from the early age, we're constantly we're being told what to do. We've given our permission away, so to speak, and as children, we nearly end up rebelling against that anyway through our teenagehood. I know myself, I did.
I think we all did.
Perspective. I mean, Carrie says the chain might be what we love the most. And these are flying so quick, it's tough to keep up with them. And then she says it's not always a burden, and that's true. I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just speaking from my own experience. And what I had to deep dive into was really learning how to kind of separate myself from my ancestors and what was no longer serving me. It doesn't mean that everything wasn't serving me, but there were parts of me and parts of my life and parts of the choices that I was making, they weren't healthy for me. And I was making the choices with what information I had and with what programming I had and what I was taught. But at some point, for me, I had to wake up. It was do or die. And for me, my waking up was choosing life, choosing that it was time for me to learn how to take care of myself, how to parent myself, how to make different types of choices that weren't always fun choices. Some of them are really difficult, like getting out of a 30-year marriage. That choice was by far the most difficult choice I made in my life.
Mm.
That was more difficult than deciding if I wanted to live or die.
Wow.
In that moment.
Yeah.
And believe me, it was simple, not easy.
Yeah.
In the end, we make a choice based on what we feel or what we think is best for us. But ultimately, if we're able to grab for, always go to the question, which I said earlier in tonight's show. What do we learn? What can I learn from this? How do I grow from this? That's what's most important from the experience. Charles, you have been such an amazing active listener in tonight's show.
Yeah, I'm just absorbing. I'm just
Yeah,
absorbing.
no, it's so good. It's so good. There's no judgment here, brother. You know that. It's truly about sometimes it's appropriate for us to be active listeners. Something I wasn't always so good at. But today it is a choice as well. With what time we have left, we got about 15 minutes coming up on the hour. What I'd like to do is change gears a little bit here. And with what time we do have left, I guess the question is, one of the questions I proposed in a posting of the show is it too late to step out of unhealthy or bad choices to feel and experience freedom? There's that piece of obligation again, and everything else that comes with it. Is it ever too late? Even if you're in your 70s or 80s? Now, none of us are there yet.
They were always my best decisions, no matter how fucking hard they were.
Yeah.
Looking back, they were all. I was like, oh, thank God I did that.
Yeah. Even if at the moment it was crazy, you thought it wasn't the right decision. I mean, I bet you if we can all look back at some of the craziest choices that we've ever made in our lives, and at that time maybe they went bust, where are we right now? Like Josh just said, look back at some of the choices that we made, what we thought weren't the best choices in the world for us at that moment, and now look at where we are now and go, wow, that choice, I thought it was crazy then, but where am I now? Wow, it was a great choice because it moved me to some place I never thought that I would ever be, where I am right now.
For me,
we can all
maybe not getting arrested in Mardi Gras would have been nice, but
Look out.
Oh man, you know, I just wanted, Jay, one of the things that for me personally is I made so many choices in my life out of my mythical illusion of obligation. I made the choice to go into the corporate world and live that world of 18 years on a limited perspective of me, what was in my soul and what I wanted to do. I made those choices out of an obligation, a mythical obligation of a wounded child to my father. All those choices were made based upon his perspective of life and an obligation to please him. That's how I made those choices until I got angry enough, as we're doing in The Artist's Way, in the 3rd chapter, talks about using anger constructively. Until I became angry enough that I wasn't where I wanted to be based upon what was my highest good, what brought me joy, that I was living and doing this out of some sort of wounded child, mythical illusion, obligation to my father, that I said I got angry enough, so intensely angry, that I said, I think it's time to make another choice and have my life for me.
Wow.
Powerful, brother.
Wow.
Much love to you and much empowerment to you, Jeff, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how can you use, what I realized is how I could use that anger inside of me, which wasn't at my father, it wasn't at myself, but there was this feeling of anger inside of me that I had to explore and go, why am I so angry? And then I realized that I wasn't living my true self. That's what I was angry at. I wasn't living my life. I was living my life out of obligation to somebody else. How nuts is that?
No, it's not. It happens every day.
Yeah.
It happens every day. You know, I want to piggyback, Jeff, what you just shared, because this is a very powerful segment. First, I want to also take a moment to thank you and honor you. You really dropped a couple of truth bombs in tonight's show, showed a lot of vulnerability. And that's why we do what we do. Russ Birchfield said, he asked the question, does it ultimately come down to self-judgment about choices we made in the past? More importantly, is this short statement, forgiveness is powerful. And where I want to go with this is, for me, as I look back and scan my past life in 2015 and beyond, as I began my healing journey, I had to really hone in on forgiveness, self-forgiveness, because it was so easy to be very self-deprecating, self-sabotaging, and be so angry at myself for so many choices that I made that hurt me and hurt my relationships. And I had to really learn that process because I wasn't taught by anyone the process of healthy forgiveness. In society was forgiveness of others. But it's got to start at home, within yourself. And so I want to acknowledge and thank Russ for saying forgiveness is powerful, because it's a huge part of when we make a choice out of obligation, and we make a choice that doesn't quite work out as we think it will, we tend to want to beat ourselves up. And that will never help us or serve us. That'll just keep us playing smaller and getting smaller. And so here we go, guys. It's that time of the show. It's time. So this is the time of the show where we get to either drop a truth bomb with a tool wrapped around it, or a reflection on something that hit you tonight in this topic of right choices for ourselves, and knowing that the word right is very contradictory, because there's judgment, very powerful judgment in that word right. And I don't embrace it. I'm not one to really look at any choices today as right or wrong. In that moment, trusting your intuition. But having said that, we're going to start musical chairs. Josh, Ritcher, I'm going to put you in first.
Boom.
All right.
You got 2 minutes.
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet, and it's something I mentioned in the past. That was amazing, and Jeff, you spurred this in me. Was if you're new to examining or pausing, or if you're new to, and usually we just sort of run our old pattern, and you realize after, right? As you start to become more aware, you can get to that point of before and then make a new choice. Usually it just happens. And then what you can ask yourself afterwards is say, what was my motivation for that? And was it from trying to fill a need or a lack or something that I'm, needing to fulfill in me? Did I make that choice for, to help somebody else, but it was out of a place of need? I needed that reassurance or that love or that feedback or whatever, so yeah, I thought it's going to be a simple tool, which is asking yourself, what's your motivation for each of these choices? And if it's from love and truth and purity and your highest self, and like Ev said, it'll be good for others as well as you, then, and it feels good when you try it on, go for it 100%. And if it's scary, even better.
We didn't touch on that part.
The fear.
That's a whole.
That's one of my favorite quotes. If it's both amazing and awesome and terrifying all at the same time, definitely do it.
Yeah. That's a whole other segment of going into that.
Where's pause though in that process, do you think?
Well, that was the hard part for me. It was I was running patterns, right? I mean, we're just reacting in life. When we're not awake and aware yet, we just react.
Yeah.
And when I would react and then start to realize after the fact. And as we get more practice with it, you can catch that moment before it happens. You can go, oh wait, this is that moment where my tape's going to run, and I'm going to choose something else. But that takes it takes some awareness and watching. Just observe yourself and your patterns, and you'll start to see these things play again and again.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Charles Mattocks, I think it's title shot, my friend. Take away tools. What do you got?
I think we kind of summarized a lot of things here that people already know. Obviously, I just feel that choices can be a great thing, and times they can be a detrimental thing if we make the wrong one. So let's all try to look into ourselves today as we wrap up the night and take a look in that proverbial mirror, that physical mirror, and ask ourselves, are we making the right choices? So that's pretty much
short and sweet and beautiful.
That's it, brother.
Wow, that was a drum roll.
Yeah.
Didn't that sound like a drum roll?
Charles, Jeff, you're gonna have to earn yours right now.
Wow, I mean, Josh just opened up a whole segment with what he just said. There's two things that pop into my mind is the woulda, shoulda, coulda part of making choices. I'm the poster boy for woulda, shoulda, coulda. I question myself. I've beaten myself up about choices that I thought were bad. And I'm learning, and I'm still learning to know that having so many choices is an amazing freedom. It's an amazing freedom to have a litany of choices before us in our life, and that no choice that we make is final. No choice that we ever make is a final choice. Like I said earlier, it leads to another choice. It brought to mind a choice that I made a bunch of years ago when I was living in Los Angeles. I'll drop a name here. Lisa Marie Presley asked me to do all the stills and behind the scenes on her music video. And I had already had a ticket and flying to New York in 2012 for the opening of Streetcar Named Desire that I worked on and was doing. And I said, without thinking, without pausing, I said, oh no, I can't do it. I'm flying to New York tomorrow. Now you can always change your flights. You can always say, you know what? Yeah, I really want to do this. I've worked with her, but I just didn't do it. And then it kicked in about 4 hours later. What the heck did I do? And I started beating myself up, called the record company back, and they said, we just got somebody else. And I was beating myself up with woulda, shoulda, couldas of why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did I do that? I called a friend and she talked me down off of the ledge. She said, you're going to find there is a wonderful reason why you said no to this. So I got to New York and was going to visit. My friend Pete Fornatel was doing his radio show on WFU back in New York. And he said, come up and be a guest. We'll hang out and all that good stuff. And I don't mean to take it down, but when I went up to Fordham University in WFUV, I walked in and I saw his producer, Jeremy. He said, what are you doing here? And I said, well, Pete, Pete and I spoke to. He goes, Pete had a stroke. And I was like, oh my God. I went in to the station and I'm trying to think of the guy's name. And the guy I always wanted to meet took over for Pete. And it was me and Jeremy. And we just sat there with these heavy hearts. And they said, we don't know what to do. We're not sure. And I stayed for that entire 4-hour show. And at the end, I just can't remember his name. He looked at me and he said, Pete sent you here. If you weren't here, Jeff, I don't know how I would have gotten through this show. We were crying on the air. It was so, and I looked at him, and that was the reason why I said no to Lisa Marie Presley.
Wow.
Because I didn't realize it, but the point is that I beat myself up over making a choice. But 4 days later, I was where I was supposed to be. And if I said yes, I wouldn't have been where I was supposed to be, which was putting that together with that DJ and knowing that is why I made that choice. I don't know if any of that made sense, but the point is you will know, even if you think your choice is not serving you in that highest moment, and then you make it, eventually, a couple of days later, a week later, a month later, it's going to hit you why you made that choice that could lead to something amazing and helping people. And I just wanted to share that story because it went from beating the crap out of myself to go,
Beautiful.
oh, wow.
That's a beautiful story. So in the end, but if I may paraphrase you, you showed up unknowingly.
Yeah.
And held space in that moment for 4 hours. And there is no payment that you could have gotten from that photo shoot with Lisa Marie.
Nope.
They've given you back what you got in that moment once you understood. And therein lies, Jeff, where what we get to do today differently is learn how to trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Trust the universe. I'll save that for my close, but that's a beautiful story. I don't think I've heard that one before. That's one thing about Jeff Fasano that I've learned over the last couple of years. Jeff is he's probably the best storyteller in my life today. You're a plethora of stories over a career, a lifespan of a career. Each one there's a story below the story. There's another story right there. And so thank you for sharing that with all of us here on Real Men Real Talk Live. Before we jump to Ev, I'd like to just remind and ask our viewers and listeners, if you enjoyed our conversation tonight, and I know so many of you did, thank you so much for being with us. please share it out on your page. Share it with your friends and family. Perhaps maybe someone in your circle of life will hear something that may, in fact, change the trajectory of their own life. Perhaps you can touch their life the way Jeff touched that individual's life in that moment in New York. And so with that, thank you, Jeff Fasano, for sharing that. Evis, love, you are in a hot seat now.
Whew. Love it. Thank you, brothers. Absolutely beautiful. Sorry, Jay, you go, man.
You're in.
I'm going in, brothers. I'm going in. All right. Now, thanks for, as always, brothers and sisters on the other side of the pond. And here, if you're in the land down under, we're just in our afternoon in this beautiful show again. Once more, that we're making choices. And look, we've pretty much come to the agreement that I don't feel that there is a right or wrong choice.
Mm-hmm.
There really is only a choice that brings you closer to you. Let me say that again. There's really only a choice that brings you closer to you, to the self, to your knowing that Jeff was just talking about. You know, we talk about these choices that we have a direction of going this way, which we've always known, the logical way, the rational mind, the one that's scary sometimes if we decide to go that way because it's unknown, the one that, you know, we're fearful of what we might actually own, so we decide that we want to stay down that way. Or we have this choice over here that we're talking about tonight where we can walk up these stairs and follow a particular thing that we call our intuition from a more heart space, which is going to allow us freedom of choice. You know, to me, the only downfall of someone making a choice, decision, those consequences based on that is self-doubt. It's indecision. It's this control of something or someone else. So if someone has taken your freedom away or has limited you of your freedom, ask yourself if this person has the right to this authority over you. Because like many of us have said here tonight, that may look like your parents. It may look like loved ones that have been close to you most of your life. You know, I talked about how this is going to affect you on a larger scale. Add up the pros, the cons, the variables. Josh talked about going into each of these doors, putting on the outfit. What's going to feel better? What's going to look better in my reality? You know, we have this choice right now on planet Earth to come back to self and finally make decisions based on who we want to be, not what anything, anyone, or any person outside of us wants us to be as an individual and as a collective. Ask yourself, are my choices going to lead you closer to that thing that you're trying to manifest, your goal, your desires, your intentions? Ask it. Does it fit in with your values, your morals? And then ask yourself, are you going to be able to commit to the choices you make in life? And as long as this doesn't hurt you or anyone else around you, there is never a wrong or right choice. And on that note, my brothers and sisters, peace.
Beautiful.
Damn, I love it.
Yep.
It's okay to have a pause here. It gives me a chance to breathe. And one of the things about closing the show out is there's so much content that you guys drop down in that I'm always at the end going, okay, what can I bring in now? I want to take a moment just to thank each one of you, my co-hosts, Ev, Charles, Josh, and Jeff, for showing up each week and bringing it home. breaking it down, showing vulnerability, being a real man on Real Talk Live is what this show is about. And hopefully we touched the life tonight. Hopefully we've brought some inspiration and hope to another man, maybe another woman, maybe a couple, that it's possible that we could make changes and choices in our life today that will improve our relationships. Something that I don't think I heard tonight, which is a huge part of learning how to make healthier choices for ourselves, is sometimes it gets complicated because it's not just a choice that's going to impact us. It's going to impact somebody else that we care a lot about. But sometimes in order for us to make that healthy choice for ourselves and to break the chain and break free to inner freedom, we have to also have the courage to set a healthy boundary, a loving boundary. Not with disrespect, not with anger, but to be able to say to a friend or a loved one, I respect you, I honor you, I love you. But this choice that I'm about to make is not about you, it's about me and what I need today from me. And understand that may be the soft boundary that you just need to set and say, regardless, this is the decision I'm moving forward with. And I hope that you could honor me, respect me, and support me in this decision. It's truly because it's a soft boundary because there's not necessarily a consequence that's stated or announced, but just letting that person know that your needs matter today, and you're not really looking for them to share any more guidance or opinions or manipulation, however we want to call it, passive aggressive behavior, to try to plant some self-doubt and sabotage you from doing what you know is best for you. Because there's not a person in my life, whether it be my mom, my ex-wife, the angel in my life today, Mary Kelly, my children, or anyone else, that truly knows what I need. I'm still figuring out what I need. They may have an idea of what they think is best for me, but we've all heard the saying in our younger years, until you walk in someone's shoes, you don't really know. And that may have been one of the greatest words of wisdom that I heard one of my caretakers share with me. Perhaps it was my mom or my dad. But it's not for me to judge. It's for me to learn how to accept, set healthy boundaries, and make the choices that are best for me, not based on other people's opinions, news, media, or movies, but based on what I already know is what's best for me inside my heart space. And with that, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You guys are amazing. I love you. Cheers to you guys. This is, in fact, structured water. It's not vodka.
Green smoothies all around, brothers.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, viewers. We love you guys. Thank you so much for coming in tonight on Real Men, Real Talk. We'll see you next Tuesday night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and make the healthiest choices with love for yourself that you can make today and tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us on Real Men, Real Talk Live.